On Zoom, we have Fawn, who's actually down the hall in the office, Peter, Susan Vogel, and Todd McClutchy. I see Matt, you're on, but I don't have you on video. I just have you on. Do I have you on audio?
Who are these people?
I'm here, Joe.
I know. Who
Okay.
Can you tell me the other people? Sure, we will. Just
So the commissioners that are joining the meeting via Zoom are Susan Vogel and Peter. They're elected commissioners, and
But elect by who?
I'm sorry, they're appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Of Darien.
Yes.
But I'm elected.
And then Todd
I'll
McClutchy.
vote for you anytime.
Todd McClutchy is the man from one of our partners in all of these projects. Has been McClutchy Associates, and he's our finance guy. Works with our treasurer, Peter.
He's invisible on that screen.
No, that's Matt. Matt Anderson is one of the principals of Imagineers. Imagineers is the management company that handles both properties, the Royal and the Heights. And so we begin. Do we have an agenda?
We do.
Yes.
This is the old one. I didn't put it down. Yeah,
So, all right, so let's start at the beginning.
but it's old business, new business.
Do we have any, what do we have in the way? I do not have any minutes that have to be approved.
We have minutes. We have the February 23rd and March 23rd.
The chair
I'll
will
move
entertain-
that they be accepted as edited.
Well, I have a comment for the March 23rd meeting minutes.
Okay,
In the property manager's report for the Heights, I think this applies to the Royal as well, because both properties have a wait list. I think we had talked about, and Matt, I think was going to look into this, how, because both of the properties have an open waiting list right now, something we typically don't have or haven't had in the past. We were going to look at how we share that information with people so that there's awareness of the fact that if you are interested in being on the waiting list, you should apply to be on the waiting list.
Okay, so I can address that.
Great.
We are working with the town. I know that Crystal's been out, but she's in contact with the town to update the town website. And then we are also updating the Heights website. And I know that the Royal website, so that they will have the applications on there and what, all our tier groups are open, the 25%, 50%, and 60% are open. So we'll make it clear, but that's what we're working on, is updating all the websites. And I know that it's out on apartment.com also, that, people search that it's on there, that it's available for applications.
That's great. I think we just need to, thank you, Fawn. That's great. I think we just need to make a mention of that in the minutes, which is
Okay.
that we're going to investigate, that Imagineers will research and come back to the commission with a recommendation on how to, and you've just done it, but I think
Okay,
cut
no
that in the
problem.
minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Peter, am I correct? You would move that the minutes be accepted as amended?
as amended and edited, correct.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, minutes approved. Next thing on the agenda is the property manager's report for both the Royal and the Heights. Juan, you're going to take that tonight?
Yes, I am. So let's talk about the Royal. We had the vent cleaning at the Royal on April 6th. And I know a couple of tenants have came up to me today and expressed that they need a little bit more cleaning. So I will address those tenants individually. But other than that, nobody else has come up to me about it. Also on April 15th, the sound engineer and architect came out to conduct sound testing. We are waiting for a report from that, and hopefully we'll get some answers to everybody that I know everybody's anxious about.
And what does that involve when the sound engineer comes out? What is he doing?
He already did on the 15th. So they took apart we have an empty unit at the Royal. So they went in, they took some baseboards off. They took some outlets out to see if there's any caulking behind there. And then they did some sound testings in between the units that, were having the real issues and problems the most. And we're just waiting for her report from it.
Okay.
Sound testing, the inspection, and then they overview the drawings and all that. The engineers do a full inspection and report back to us.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, was there an issue with sound?
There is in this.
Yeah.
A very significant one.
Excuse me, I'll let the audience speak when it's appropriate.
Okay.
That we've had numerous complaints about sound being heard from unit to unit and from units out into the hall. And we've been looking at it for quite some time now. We finally got an engineer out to actually run some tests and see what the levels are. We have been told by the contractor that the building was built to spec. The specifications were what the building code required in terms of insulation between buildings and insulation between levels. What the inspection does is in fact verify that that's a true statement, that when you pull the electrical plugs out, you look inside the wall, you find the appropriate amount of insulation. When you pull the baseboards out and you look behind the wall, you find the appropriate amount of insulation. The sound tests will show us what's actually happening apartment to apartment, apartment to hallway, and a hallway to apartment. And then we can make an assessment of what needs to be done after that.
I guess I
So,
didn't realize this is the first time hearing that, no pun intended, that there is a sound issue. So that's why I was curious to know.
right, and could part of it be how individuals have furnished and put wall, or window treatments and stuff like that, where, a little more fabric sometimes softens the sound, and harder surfaces or things like, leather and vinyl seating versus cloth seating. Could that be contributing to it, or is this truly viewed as a construction issue?
And I don't pretend to be.
I don't think we can. I don't think we have that information yet, Peter. I think we don't know what the
The
cost
kind of
is.
complaints that we're getting indicate that there's an issue.
There's
If
definitely an issue.
our residents are being disturbed at 2:00 in the morning, that's an issue. And we need to understand what's causing the issue and what is possible to be done to correct the issue.
And
I
I
agree with that completely.
think, from what I understand, it's a widespread issue. It's not just, one particular unit that feels that maybe they have a noisy neighbor. That my understanding is that it's throughout the building, and many people are complaining.
Yes,
So it's not, yeah.
it's not isolated to one area of the building. It's not isolated to one design of apartment. It's spread out throughout the building, and it's pervasive enough to lead us to believe that there's a serious issue here and that it has to be resolved. Now, having said that, it's easy to sit here. I'm the chairman. I get to sit here and say, it has to be resolved. It's a lot more complicated to actually come to a resolution. And that's why we brought in the sound engineers to run the test, to give us some factual information about what it is we're up against. And then, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, to get some suggestions and recommendations on what the solution has to be.
Will we make the sound engineer's report available to the general public so that, or what, what happens when the sound engineer presents?
Todd, you can jump in on the next steps here.
Yeah, no, we're going to take the report. We're going to come up with some recommendations. We'll talk amongst us as a group as to what needs to be addressed and what can be done to potentially correct this situation, and go from there. It's, we have to do our fact finding first,
Right, absolutely.
and then we can take the next steps.
Do we have any idea how long it's going to take for the sound engineer's report to come back?
Probably within the next week or so. We should
Okay,
have the report back, draft of that report, and that will help us determine again, how do we finalize that report and what our next steps are and recommendations are.
Todd, if we get the report back within the next, say, week and a half, can we post on the website a timeline on what our expectation is for deliberations and suggestions and implementation? So that we give the residents some sense of, I want to be very careful here.
Well, I think.
I would think the next meeting would be the
Yeah, I think
appropriate
that's
time to do that.
Yeah, I think that's premature, Joe. Until we know what the report actually says, I think it's difficult to make any promises or even posit what a timeline might look like. So my hope would be that the report comes back, it's shared with the commission. We're able to review it in advance of the next meeting, at which point we can discuss the findings and the recommendations, and then a timeline for whatever remediation may be required can be put together or shared. I just think it's like, I mean, look, I hear that there's an issue, and hence the reason for this
Project.
this project. But I think but I also heard that there are specs and state guidelines, and until we know that the building doesn't adhere to those, it's premature to even speculate that there's, unfortunately, anything we need to do or anything that can be done. So like, I don't want to start making promises to people or suggesting something's going to happen when we don't know what, if anything, can or will. So like, let's wait till we have a report and we have some more information before we start discussing anything.
I agree. And I would also echo that I would hope we could get a copy, the commission could get a copy of the report, and if any recommendations have been made prior to the next meeting, so we have a chance to digest it and understand it. So we're not doing a work in progress during the meeting. This is obviously a too important a situation for us to be kind of winging the answer along the way.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree.
Let me clarify. I'm not looking for a timeline right now. I'm not looking for a commitment on a timeline right now. The only thing I'm looking for is so that we can reassure the public that when we've done due deliberation and when we've had those discussions, the results of those discussions and deliberations will be made public. I want people to know that we're not just going to look at the report and say, well, the report proves we met the guidelines, we did what we were supposed to do, we did what we said we were going to do, the issue is closed. If that's the result, we still have to make that result public.
I agree, but it sounds like when the report comes in, we'll be able to do it next meeting.
Correct.
Sounds like within 2 weeks, we'll have information to share, and the next meeting's 4 weeks out. By then, I think we'll be in a position to provide the initial comments that for the public.
I don't have a
I think that
problem
all
with it.
sounds perfectly reasonable, and that's certainly the goal. And if we can the sooner we can get the information out, the better off we're going to be at making whatever recommendations or conclusions we can from that study.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on this issue? Any other comments?
Can I speak?
Comments from the public? Yes.
Okay, well, my name is Jill Gordon. I moved in here, my lease started on November 1st, and I moved in on November 12th. The morning of November 13th, I was walking at 5:40 in the morning by my neighbor, told me on the phone. It has been a nightmare ever since. I hear him sneeze, I hear him snort, I hear him cough, I hear him blow his nose, I hear him play his radio at all hours. He talks to people in different time zones. I hear that too. My sleep has been interrupted. I've been diagnosed with TMJ, and my blood pressure has gone up since I moved in here. Let me say a little bit about myself. I'm from Manhattan. I've lived in apartments all my life in Manhattan, in Southern California, and in Norwalk. I owned a condo for 10 years in Westport with a shared wall. I have never, and I say this completely clearly, never had an experience like I had in this building. I've never heard a neighbor snore in my life. Are you going to tell me that insulation is adequate? that I'm hearing my neighbor snore, and that's just hunky-dory with you. Would you like to be woken up?
Excuse me. You made your point.
No, I didn't.
Excuse me.
Let me
Excuse
finish.
me, excuse me. If you're going to speak to this meeting, you're going to keep it under
Okay,
control.
fine. Fine. I just a little hard when you're on sleep. In addition, when I moved into my unit, there was no heat for 16 days, 18 days actually. My lease started the year before. I moved in on the 12th. I didn't have heat till the 18th. I was told I didn't have to put it in my thermostat. Actually, that wasn't true. There's no working heat.
Jill? Jill, this
Yes.
is Fawn. Hey, Jill, I know you and I had a very long conversation about all of this. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I
Okay.
said-
I know you and I had a very long conversation about this before, and I know, we addressed some of the issues, and, the biggest one is the noise, but everything else, you can talk to me again about it, but you and I had this, I'm fine to discuss this with you again.
Sit there and hear people say they didn't know there was a noise problem. Excuse me? Hello? I'm sorry. You didn't, would you like to be woken up at 5:40 in the morning? Would you like to be woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning? Would you like to be woken up at 12:20 at night? That's what's been happening to me. I'm very sorry. I can't, I'm not sleeping and I can't function well because I'm not sleeping. And I'm sorry if you all don't like that, but that's the reality of the situation. And as I said, I have never, I've lived in apartments, I'm 72. I've lived in apartments my entire life. And I have never had anything like this. I never heard a neighbor snore in my life until now.
Can I just, I really appreciate your comment. And I really appreciate you sharing how
It's been
frustrating.
very, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get upset, but when you don't sleep, it's very hard,
Let me speak.
of course.
I really appreciate your comment. This neighborhood participation is what drives us and what's helped us to understand. Other board members not knowing,
But how do they not know? That's what I don't understand.
this is why we have board meetings, so that people who live here can come forward. The board members aren't going to know every little detail. This is why we have these
But I've
meetings.
been documenting this since November.
Jill, because the property manager has been taking care of the sound issue. Now there is been escalated to have people come and check the sound booth. Now the board meeting is being aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
But the property manager is being charged.
Yeah, it's followed the normal chain of command. Fawn is well aware of it. Now the board is aware of it.
The lady on the upper right didn't even know that.
But she's aware now.
Okay,
We're very much aware of that.
I appreciate that because I'd like to sleep at night.
So does everybody. but
We
have to
will,
wait to get-
as we have detailed in this meeting, we will have further information for you at the next meeting.
When is that?
The next meeting is in a
I will
month.
give you the information.
4 weeks.
Thank you, because I didn't know that.
I
I hadn't accidentally called.
I will
Wednesday, I wouldn't have
provide
known
you,
it was me.
no, I'll provide you the information for every meeting.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
No problem. All right, anything else on this issue? Yes,
My question just was, in terms of the report, is it going to be a broad, a broader timeline? In other words, if everyone knows that the report is coming in, by May 15th, by May 15th, that you all will get the report, and then by 15th to the 30th, you estimate there'll be some evaluation. So people can see where the time span is, basically that, they're not going to be hounding you going on May 16th. Well, you got the report, where's the answer? You know
No,
what I'm
I-
saying? So that people can logically, building residents can logically say, hey, listen, right now they're reading the report, but we'll know somewhere between the 15th and the 30th that there'll be a report.
We
You
can
know
talk-
what I'm saying?
our-
A broader time span so
our-
people
our
are so
next-
much in the dark.
our next meeting is scheduled for May 25th.
Right.
On May 25th, we will be able to tell you exactly where we are in the process. We
Yeah,
will tell you
that's what I'm saying. So
We'll
that
tell you
people-
what
one, don't
information-
make themselves crazy, and two, don't make you crazy.
what information we've gotten, what we've done with that information, and what our next steps are. That will be,
Yeah, exactly.
What are we supposed to do when we're woken up all the time? Between now and May 25th?
Ma'am,
Just stand up and not sleep?
I would
I
like
don't mean to be mean, but I'm trying to understand. because it's very upsetting.
I understand, but excuse me, I understand. I live in this building.
Yeah, but you're next to a nice neighbor.
I cannot change the situation on the fly. I can keep you up to date on what steps are being taken to improve the situation. You came to us with a problem about the heat, we fixed it. This problem is much more complicated, much more problematic to fix and to come to some solutions. I am very sympathetic to the fact that you're having problems sleeping, but I can't sit here and say to you, by next week, it won't happen anymore. That's just not true, and it's not realistic. By the next meeting, we will tell you where we are and where we're headed. We'll tell you what the report told us, what steps we think are appropriate, if any, and where we go from here. That's the best I can do for you. I can't do any better than that. Yes.
Can I say one thing? In the meantime, there are heroes that call HEROS. They are sold earplugs.
Yeah.
And they are very effective.
Unfortunately, yeah, they don't work for me. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Okay, anything else on this issue? Moving right along. What's next? Vaughn, what else have we got on the?
Anything on the heights?
The heights, we are working with the landscaper. They are coming out this week to kill the weed and grass area around the columns, the porch columns. And then that's on Thursday, weather permitting. And then on Saturday, they plan on mulching and edging out around the columns. And then after that, we will schedule for the repairs of the columns.
Okay, good.
Fawn, has anyone reached out to you, or maybe they have to Joe, regarding a timeline for the widening of the West Avenue and Roten Avenue intersection up by the Heights?
That process is underway. I spoke with Jeremy. I don't have a definitive start date. I do know some activity has taken place on that corner. People have been out there beginning to look at what they need to do. And I'm assuming we'll know when they get started, because one of the first things they'll do is take down the remaining trees that are on our property on that corner.
I just wanted to know if it was still scheduled for this summer, because they had talked about originally trying to do it this year, but with everything that's happened in the world, I'm wondering if it was.
That project is on schedule to be completed this year.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, exactly what the start date is, what the finish date is, I can't tell you that. I don't know.
Okay.
I can make an editorial comment here that let's not get our hopes up. We decided as a board, when this issue first came up, that we would grant the easement to the town so that they could widen West Avenue. We also decided, the town informed us that under law, the way the contracts are written, they have to pay us for that easement. Now we're talking peanuts here, you know, $2,200, something like that. And what happened was we decided as a board that rather than take the money, we just keep the money, put the extra $2,200 into landscaping that corner, make the corner look really nice. And everybody agreed that was the appropriate thing to do. And the town came back to us and said, no, the state won't let us do that. The state said, we have to write you a check, you have to accept the check. And then if you want to give us the money back to put into landscaping, you can do that at the appropriate time during the project. Now, I've spoken with planning and zoning and made Jeremy aware of what our wishes are. And what I have told him to avoid is avoid terminating the landscaping contract until we're satisfied that the extra money has been spent appropriately. Because it's cheaper to do it while the landscaper is on site than to have that contract terminated and issue a new contract for another $2,200 worth of work. It just doesn't make sense. So that's where we're at, but we'll keep you up to date when we get any information relative to the start date, which we just don't have right now. We know there's paperwork being pushed around, and there are people out looking at the location so that they can get started as quickly as possible. But Jeremy has told me that this project is on schedule to be completed this year.
I also want to report that we found a new local company out in Stamford to order the barrier gate for the one-way driving issue. So it's coming in 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah, good. That was
Yep.
one of the things on my list for old business, so that's good.
Yep, we have a date that they said it's coming in 4 weeks, and it's gonna look really nice. And that's what they specialize in, is barrier gates for like one-way places. So
Excellent.
And then,
That's terrific. Thank you.
I don't know if this week, old business or new business, we had discussions last month about people walking their dogs, non-residents walking their dogs on our public property. Do we want to touch base with that now or wait till old business?
we can touch base with it now. I know that you're talking about the Royal, that's most,
Here,
that's
yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening. Yeah. So, you know, as you know, we try to see if it's the same dog walking or same person, because they always walk at the same time. So we're working on that. But right now, I talked to maintenance, and what they're doing is, because it's mostly on the back fence area by the dumpster. So, you know, they're cleaning it up as they see it. And it hasn't been like a huge issue for the tenants here, because they've been cleaning up, but we are watching out for whose dog it is, because it's not anybody that's living on the property. It's dogs that come in from somewhere else.
I think there's people coming from, what's the name of the street?
Academy or something, yeah, one of these side
Come
streets.
over there, I chase them over there all
I've
the
seen them
time.
walking the dogs there, I've seen the dogs, unfortunately, I have a dog, so I'm hyper aware of this.
I wonder,
I will say this once again. I said it at the last meeting and I'll say it again. If you see somebody walking the dog and they do not tell me, let me know.
I didn't know you were gone.
I chase them away, and
No,
if the
I
dog,
moved in here, nobody told me anything other than
Well,
who Myrna was.
if
there's
you
a
see
man
it,
who comes down, an Oriental man, and he lets his two
Yes.
kids climb that
I've
tree.
seen him too as well.
They're there all the time.
what time does he come by?
You can't tell what time it comes, but I chase, I tell him no, and he keeps on doing it.
If I knew,
Next time, pick up your phone.
Yeah, the two little
And there's
boys
another-
climb that tree.
There's another issue, as a dog owner myself, there's a lot of broken glass. I don't know if people are throwing bottles, but I've seen a lot of broken glass. I'm talking about the back from
They're right here.
Academy, a lot of broken glass, occasionally gets picked up. But I have a dog and so I'm aware of it because I love the dog's voice.
is it on our property or is it on the
It's on
public?
our paved property.
Well, then we'll take care of it.
Well, one of the got the helpers, lifted it all up, and he got a big half of it back to a dog's dirt. So he did.
All right, well, again, if you see it, let me know. I'll get something done about it.
Can you
What,
put a sign up there? Because he says it's not private property.
well,
No, there is, I believe
there is signage up indicating that it is private property.
There is a sign, I've seen it.
If need be, the next step would be to send a mailing out to the neighbors.
I think I chased two of them and live over wood building over here.
Would it be possible to put some kind of, I hate to say this, but some kind of garbage pail there that we, at the very least, unfortunately, we have to empty it, but at least it would be in the ground.
We have bags there, there's a post with bags. These people don't care, and that's the problem.
I know.
And so we go out of our way to do whatever we want. They don't care. And what we can't do is make them care. Now, if we see them doing it, we can make them care because we can have them fined.
I open my door and I stand outside until we walk right by them. So.
All right, we'll continue to look at it. We'll continue to monitor the situation. We will do something about it if we have the necessary information to do something.
Uh-huh.
We're very much aware of the problem, but in the absence of knowing who's causing the problem, there's very little we can do about it. So,
Because you got a lot of bald spots out here in the grass and it was growing really nice.
yeah, all right. Let me know and we'll keep on top of it.
Okay.
Anything else, Quan?
That is all I have for it.
Okay. Moving on to old business.
I think we talked about all that.
Well,
already.
what's down?
The only thing that I have on the old business, is thank you, Fawn, for the follow-up on the one-way sign, and it sounds like the dog situation. I think, as everyone has said, if you just call the office in Myrna or
Crystal.
to be aware of it, then they can start to monitor and take a look at when it's happening. The only other thing I have on the list is the washer and dryer, some kind of rebate program or some kind of relief for tenants like myself who have now paid several $1,000s for the washers and dryers. I know this meeting, there's supposed to be some discussion at this point about possible relief.
I'll let Todd handle this.
No, thank you, Jane. So, and we have spent a good deal of time looking into this matter. And it's sort of what we came up with. So it just needs to take us back a little bit sort of to the beginning of the redevelopment, where we started to look at we started having our resident meetings. One of the things that came out of those resident meetings all along was how do we mimic what we have for existing residents in some of the amenities that they have currently or previously for the residents. And a lot of the residents had washers and dryers within their homes. So we immediately went to incorporate into our design these washers and dryer hookups for each of the units, in addition to the community facility that we have for the property. And when we were discussing this with the original Allen O'Neill residents, many of the residents told us that they had washers and dryers in their homes currently, but we could not use those going forward because they did not meet some of the efficiency standards and some of the insurance liability issues that we have to maintain within the new building. So knowing all of those things, we put together this program where we could lease washer and dryer equipment machines to individual units to the extent that they wanted that additional convenience of being able to do laundry within their units. We have gone back out. So we came up with a monthly lease number back when this was originally done. We have spent some time over the last couple of weeks taking a look at what the market is to lease those types of units, in addition to making sure that they are serviced on a monthly basis, or not on a monthly, that they're serviced properly, that repairs are done, that they are replaced in the event that they are deemed not usable, and as well as things like shipping charges, water usage, warranties. And what we came to find through all of that is that the typical pricing for washer and dryer equipment ranged from anywhere from $30 to $60 a month. And there was a lot of, sort of hidden fees and all of that. And that's why I think we are going to stick with what we have. It's been working for us in terms of getting a competitive price for the washers and dryers, but also maintaining the level of service that we need to keep the washers and dryers up. And sort of that's sort of the background of why we have this washers and dryer lease in the first place, where we came up with the pricing for it. And we want to make sure that we are able to maintain the high level of service and maintenance for those units going forward, and that we don't have any problems with them from an insurance perspective or other maintenance related issues.
I understand, and and I agree with everything that you've said. My only question would be, why couldn't a resident either purchase the washers and dryers and then take on that responsibility themselves, the existing washers and dryers, which are already in compliance and meet all the requirements, or purchase their own washers and dryers, but have them, of course, approved by the management company and installed by someone from the management company, or installed professionally to be sure that there would be no issue. I understand the cost of replacing. I think the management company has done a great job replacing anything in my particular unit that's broken, that it's been prompt and good. But I guess just to throw it back on the table, I don't see why there couldn't be some alternative. And I'm not quite sure when you talk about the water bill. Clearly, these washers use 4 gallons of water for a typical load, according to what it says in their manual. So I don't see that the washers and dryers or the washers in particular are causing a high water bill, or that they're the reason for the offset of the cost of them. But I don't want to, prolong this. I think my position on it. I don't know where we can go from here, but I would like that option for any resident who might want it. But I do understand your point of view, and this is about maintaining the cash flow of the project also. So I'm not unaware of that.
Yeah, so I mean, we really want to stick with what we have going right now. What we are going to make a commitment to, though, is certainly we have not increasing since people have moved in. We do not expect to ever do that over the next many years. So we're going to maintain the levels we are currently running.
Is there any way that long-term users could have a reduction? Say, if between 30 and 60 is average, if there could be a reduction, if you've been a good tenant for 7 or 8 years now, and still have your same washer and dryer, you could have a reduction in your bill of $10, $15. Doesn't sound like much, but it is, over a year or a 5-year time frame.
I totally get that, and what happens is it starts getting very, very complicated at that point, where now how are you determining which residents sort of receive this reduction, and maybe for instance there was a maintenance issue with one of the machines, and there's sort of a dispute or disagreement as to how that maintenance issue came up. It becomes very challenging to start maintaining and monitoring that list.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I think we've explored this. I think
The only thing I would say at this stage of the game, Todd, can we reassure the residents that this is an issue that will continually get reviewed to see if there's something new on the horizon that we're not aware of that changes the circumstances? We all understand how we got to where we got to, and what the circumstances are that drive us to continue in that direction. But it's worth our while to continue to keep an ear out to see if anything new shows up on the horizon.
I think that's perfectly fair, and yeah, there can be a commitment to reassess this, address this every year. That if there, for instance, is lower maintenance costs on an annual basis, and we can realize extra savings that way, we can pass those along to the residents. We can make a commitment to that effect.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, moving right along. Whole business. What else you got?
I think those are the only things. I think
So,
everything else has been.
Talked about the posts and the footings.
We talked about the posts and the footings and the landscaping, and
We're all set.
yes.
Where are we, Fawn, on the election of the resident commission?
Yep. So I talked to the Women's League voting, and they said they have a meeting in May, and they are going to work with the town to see how they can coordinate the voting process during the pandemic. So I'm waiting to hear about their meeting. I think they're having it mid-May, so I'm hoping to hear back from them after their meeting to give us some guidance. But I gave them all the updated information, all the letters and everything that they need to move on with the process, but they need to talk with the town and talk amongst themselves to see how they can do it in a safe manner.
Okay, and just so everybody understands.
And I told them that we want the election, like ideally in July, because that's what we talked about in the last meeting.
There was some concern at the beginning of this process that we were allowing the management company to take the lead on this. I've spoken directly with the representative from the League of Women Voters, And we've had several emails back and forth so that the housing authority is in fact the driving force behind this. We're using the management company to do, as management companies are wont to do the legwork, make the necessary phone calls, the follow-up calls. But we are keeping in charge of this process.
Correct. Yep. They sent, I think they sent an email to you and I replied back what information they needed. And I told them, you know, that's what we want is a July election. And then they said they're having a meeting in May and they'll get back to us.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, new business. What else we got? We got anything under new business?
I don't have anything, no.
Anybody got any issues?
Can I ask?
Hang on just 1 second. Any commissioners? No.
Nope.
To the visitors, yes.
Since I had no idea there was a meeting until I accidentally spoke to Paul today. I'd like to understand, because I moved Darien. I'd like to understand who's responsible for this building, who's in charge, is this related to the town, and who are these gentlemen on the bottom, because I don't know this.
Okay, once again, Peter Bigelow is a commissioner. He was appointed by
Commissioner of what?
he is a member of the Darien Housing Authority. The Housing Authority consists of 5 commissioners. Myself, Jane, Peter, Susan, and one gentleman, Emmanuel, who is not present this evening.
Thank you.
Those 5 are appointed by the town for 5-year terms?
5-year terms.
5-year terms,
Except me.
except the resident commissioner, because it's the resident commissioner.
And I get voted.
And that information is on the town website.
I would have no way of knowing that too.
I know, that's what
Thank you very much.
The other 2 gentlemen on the bottom row, as I said in the beginning, Matt Amerson is in the middle, and Matt is the representative of he's one of the principals of the management company. Imagineers is a company that the housing authority hired to manage the day-to-day operation of the Royal and the Heights. And he is a principal of that company. And then the next gentleman is Todd McClutchy. Todd is a principal of
MJ.
JMH Incorporated or JHM Incorporated, and was the guy who put all the financing together for both projects. And he is also our liaison between the contractors that actually did the work and the Darien Housing Authority.
So I've heard Dawn, and I think Crystal, for the owners. Who's the owners?
The Darien Housing Authority owns the property. There is an LLC that was formed that's a combination of JHM, Imagineers, and the Housing Authority to be the owners of the building. And
And this is all for profit.
this is not for profit. There's no profit involved at all. And the biggest problem we had in both of these projects, Todd, correct me if I got it wrong. The biggest challenge we had in both redoing the Heights and redoing the Royal, which used to be called Old Town Hall Houses, is the property was deeded to the Darien Housing Authority years and years and years ago. And there is a deed restriction that says the property in perpetuity will be used for low and moderate income housing. There are provisions within the housing laws that say a contractor, a for-profit developer can develop a low and moderate income project, use federal monies, whatever, and maintain it. Todd, again, help me out here, 40 years or 60 years, and it depends on the type of project it is, at which time they are free to convert it to market rate. Normally what they do in those cases, they put it in their portfolio. When they sell the business, it's sold as part of the portfolio. That cannot be done in this case because the deed says low and moderate income housing in perpetuity. So lots and lots of paperwork had to be rewritten from the boilerplate that's normally used for these kinds of projects to make very clear that there is no intention at any time in the future to convert this property to market rate.
So I'm a little bit confused with that. I had a conversation with Dawn on the phone earlier today, and she said that the Darien Housing Authority had nothing to do with town of Darien. Can you explain that to me? 'Cause I'm a little-
Wait. Housing Authority's sole responsibility is to have affordable housing in the town of Darien. And this commission, which dates back for a lot of years, has been the overseers of the affordable housing in Darien. That's our charter. That's what we do. Our partners are companies that are exclusively dealing with affordable housing. That's their commitment. That's what they do. So the Housing Authority is the overseer of the property, overseer of the projects. We hire the best available talent we can get to make sure that we have a quality product, and we feel we do have that. We understand there's some issues that have to get ironed out, but we basically have excellent affordable housing, and that's the way it will continue to be in perpetuity. We're an affordable housing authority. So we are the ones who are responsible for these projects and for the housing in Darien.
Now, let me just clarify the confusion about whether we represent the town of Darien or not. There is a state law that creates housing authorities in the individual
Yes, I
communities.
understand that. I live in West Florida.
We fall under that state statute. The law specifies that the local authority, in this case, Darien, the Board of Selectmen, appoint the members to the housing authority. But the housing authority derives its power, our ability to do these projects, to manage these things through the statutes of the state of Connecticut, not through anything here in the
So
town of Darien.
who did the final inspections on this building? Because there were they didn't vacuum out the ducts where the construction debris was. I was talking for months. There's not improper insulation of the walls. I mean, I
Excuse
just
me.
like to understand.
Excuse me. We don't know. We are operating under the opinion that the insulation of the walls is in fact proper. Whether it does what it's supposed to do remains to be seen. We have a report coming and we'll discuss it at next meeting. This building was built observing all the necessary construction guidelines from the building department, inspections from the fire department, from the fire marshal's office. Everything was done according to both state and local statutes for construction.
So the people that installed the windows, 3 of them, told me it was a disaster. That the windows were
But,
not
I gotta tell you something. I can sit here all night long and listen to you tell me what's wrong with this, excuse me, your words, not mine. This shithole that you're living in, it's not gonna change it. This is what we have built. Yes, it is a new building. Yes, it has some problems that we are addressing one at a time, and we will continue to address one at a time. Everything that legally was supposed to be done was done when this building was constructed. And we will continue to have the necessary fire inspections, the necessary building inspections that we have to do every year as required by law. We do it at the heights, and we will do it here. And the problems that continue to arise will be addressed one problem at a time. And we will do it as fast as we possibly can. It will not make everybody happy. We will continue to do what we need to do to make this building suitable for the vast majority of its residents. That's the best I can do. Can't do any better than that. Anything else? Anybody else got anything?
Yes,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just have a couple of questions. One is that you can smell smoke between apartments if someone's smoking.
If you smell smoke in this building,
I have.
please notify me.
I have.
No.
Notified you, I've notified Crystal.
Joe,
You can notify management.
Yeah, Joe, let us, we know how to, we want to address anybody who's smoking in the building. All you have to do is call the office and we will address it.
We've done that, so, I mean, it happens occasionally now, not to what the length it was. Okay, I consider it a non-issue because it's been semi-resolved, and occasional whatever's or occasional whatever.
I find stubs for smoking in that bin out there. You must be going out that door, coming in and putting the cigarette in that bin.
Well,
I find three stubs.
I know we have management to take care of this. I take this personally. I belong to the fire department. If there's an incident in this building, I take it very personally. So.
I found three and I took the stubs out and I put them in my own garbage and put water in them.
We have the smoking and
The one right outside your door.
Yes, we have the smoke and then the state, we also have a fine now in the smoke and and we try to follow as much as possible. And we actually are finding every resident who are being reported, like who wants to have reported. But you know, they follow it for a week and then they go back the next week, so we got to continue. So we actually get to the point that we.
Wait, this woman still has other.
Go ahead.
We're not gonna be able to legislate morality, so
Right,
it's
exactly.
just clear.
Right.
My next question is, since this is a new building, and I would assume 90% of the people are new in this building, is there any way that we can establish a building address book within the building that you can either opt in or opt out of, so that you know who your next door neighbor is? And maybe that will eliminate some of the problems if you knew that Sam lived next door, or at least build a sense of community, which is really lacking. Secondly, I have a question about this room, and I know we're in COVID, but is there any possibility, because there are some elderly people on the first floor that would really enjoy going out and enjoying the sun on the other side of the building, and yet I've seen them kind of scrunched up in the parking lot trying to get some sun. You know, is there any reason that these are not open on a daily basis? In good weather, is there any reason that there are not chairs out there?
That's a good idea.
There are some elderly people in this building, and I'm saying beyond 27.
So one of the biggest reasons is COVID.
Okay.
So we are following the guidelines to open with the club rooms because the height is close to it, it's not closed.
But the doors can be open, and maybe people should be able
But
to
we don't want
navigate,
it-
open that door and come out to this door.
But we don't want to risk it out because we got to monitor how people who can access the club room. And we're not here
I
daily.
don't want to think this, I don't think we're talking about 300 people. If we got 10 people to go out there, I think we could consider it the second time. Oh, God. Okay, so that's my next question. Secondly, we did have a fire drill. We did have a fire, excuse me, we had not a fire drill, but two actual experiences since I've lived here. Is it not possible, one, to have a fire drill so people know what to do? God forbid something actually happens in this building. You've got people who really don't know where the exits are. Also, a lot of these people have never lived in an apartment building. These are homeowners. If anything happens in their house, they run out the front door and they maybe get to their car. These are people that the alarm goes off and they go, gee, nice alarm, wonder what's happening.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
We can certainly schedule a fire drill for the tenants. And I just want to circle back. The community room is not open because we're in the pandemic, and we would love to have tenant meetings. You know, we have that, or gatherings, but again, we're in a pandemic, so we're trying to be safe. So as soon as, you know, things start opening up and that it's safe, then we will, you know, open up and get.
Heights in the same situation.
Yeah, the Heights is the same situation. Yep.
And the address book within the building, is that?
That's something could be done. We actually did it before with Old Town Homes used to be built before. So we did it with the tenants. We sent a letter to the tenants offering the option, if they want their phone numbers to be shared with their neighbors, they can sign the form and provide their phone numbers. And when everybody who opted to do it, we were able to share phone numbers. So if something could be done, then we have to go back to each tenant in the property.
Well, I've been here since September, I've never gotten.
No, we haven't done it. We did this a long time ago before this property was built for the old tenant. There's something we can be done, it's just has to be referenced to every single tenant in the property. If it wants to be followed.
I think we should at least start the process of
Correct.
setting up.
We need to build a sense of community in here. You have people who don't even know each, I mean, I know my next door neighbor, the girl across the hall, and the young man, the other man, who was, two people live down the corner, and that's only because one of them is a friend of a friend. I mean, there are people who are living in this building, who are seniors who probably moved in from nowhere, like me, who haven't got a blessed idea, who lives,
We'll get the ball
really, and I'd be very happy to be on a committee to do it, or to do whatever legwork you need.
Since the weather is getting nicer, maybe we will organize something outside where it's like, you know, better for spacing for everyone, and you know, people can be safe outside. So let's look into that, and we'll look into that, and we'll do that.
on.
We had a fire, I don't know how long ago it was,
Couple weeks, 3 weeks,
a kitchen fire on the second floor.
yes,
I immediately called 911
yes.
and called the fire department, Darien, and went outside, which I live on the first floor, so that was not counting. There were people who said, "What's going on? What'd you do?" I said, "I called 911." People had no clue.
Well, we will
A procedure.
begin the process of conducting a fire drill here. We will make procedures known in the event of when the alarm goes off. While I appreciate that you immediately call 911, it's totally unnecessary. The alarm is connected to the 911
Because
system, so
when I spoke to the fire department, they didn't know that.
the fire department wouldn't know it until it gets dispatched.
I see.
The 911 goes to police headquarters sends it to the dispatch center, and then it gets dispatched.
I see.
But because, again, I belong to the fire department, I can promise you that I was on the phone, not to 911, but directly to the fire department to let them know exactly what was going
It
on,
was good.
so that when they got here, they knew what was going on. We do have an issue that we have to resolve. If we told you today what the procedure should be for a fire in the building, the procedure is to evacuate. The reality is, because we have so many elderly people on the second and third floor, and because when the alarm goes off, the elevators immediately go to the ground floor and wait for the fire department to get there. So to have elderly people coming down the stairwell may not be the most advisable thing to do. It might be better to shelter in place, to go into the apartment, close the door. But we have to work those details out with the fire marshal and his people to determine how we need to convey that information, because we want our residents to be safe.
Joe, this afternoon, it was not the fire alarm, but it's the beep, 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 beep that you hear from it's over my couch, that little thing. And it's 3 beeps and then 3 beeps. And it seems to be something that can be turned off, because that was the way it started the last time. And then all of a sudden the fire alarm goes on, and you know about that.
That smoke and
So
radar,
the smoke detector.
smoke detector. Yeah, that's what it
Maybe
sounds
the
like.
smoke detector needs the buttons to be replaced.
Yeah.
Was that smoke
Yeah,
detector?
I've heard it before, and it would go on, and I've gotten the wall and I can hear it, but then it stops, and it's like somebody, maybe the emergency things in the bathroom.
No, it
you
just
turn them
sounds
off.
like it's your smoke detector. Just call the office and they'll have the maintenance guys
I'll
come
go
out.
tomorrow to check this one.
Yeah, and they'll change the batteries.
Okay.
Yeah, but just call the office. I mean, that, you know.
Is it a family here without run the smoke detector or someone else?
Are these all out on the power system? With the battery there just for backup?
That's how ours are at the heights.
The battery is just for backup, yes. So Myrna, we will put in the work order tomorrow for Tomo to come in and check that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must be.
Let me give you another one, just so you're all aware of it, because it happened to me. If you open your dishwasher, and in the process of
Yes.
opening the dishwasher, you inadvertently hit the start button, that door is open and it will continue to beep because it's trying to start and it can't start because the door is open. Maybe a crazy man the other day, because I couldn't, now I'm used to alarms. I know what alarms are. Not blue number one. That's the problem.
Well, I see a lot of people at less.
All right, so, anything else we got? Do we have an executive session tonight? Is there anything?
I have one issue I want to bring to executive session.
Okay, in that case, if there's no other new business, no other comments, the chair will entertain a motion to end the public session to reconvene in executive session. We will not be coming out of executive session back to public session to vote on anything. When we're done with executive session, we're done. And just for those of you who are unfamiliar with our meetings, executive session is to discuss issues that by law can't be discussed in public. Tenant issues, contract issues, we cannot discuss in public.
The only question I have is, since I accidentally found out about the meeting, going forward, how do we find out about it?
I will provide all the information.
There's a
Thank
thing
you.
out in the foyer. It tells you, the thing out in the foyer tells you what.
And I will show you everything when,
In between the two doors, as you go out the front,
and the board and.
there's a board, there's a bulletin board out there, and that information is posted in
Yeah, I
that
never thought that.
It's always once a month. the
last fourth Tuesday of every month.
I'll provide you all the information.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
yes.
There was two other things. if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. Second, my next thing is, I'm on the third floor, and apparently there's an issue with the garbage chute door, if I now understand it. I didn't know about it, but when I went to put garbage into the garbage chute, it was filled to the brim. I mean, to the brim, the cup run is over. So my question is, if there's an issue, why isn't a notice put under everyone's door to make them aware of it? And secondly, what is the problem? This is like, I would say the third or fourth time.
That problem, the latch is missing, and the trash company is coming to fix that problem. And we did put in a temporary trash bin there, so you could put your trash in there, and it's empty every day. So they're supposed to come next week. They told us that they had to order a latch, and that's what the problem is. And they're gonna come next week, and we put in a temporary bin there for you to put your trash in, and that bin is removed every single day.
When the problem arises, why doesn't somebody let people on the floor know? They could probably take the garbage out and put it in the outside if they're capable of doing it. It might eliminate some of the problem in the room. I don't remember you guys' feelings, but I get the distinct feeling, and I'm gonna touch my words, and that is that whoever's responsible to manage doesn't walk the property when they're here every day. I mean, they don't walk to the second floor to check the washing machines to see if one of them is broken, to make sure that everything is working, to make sure that the property is clear. There was garbage out on the back property for, I would say, at least 6 days. Just trash, just thrown out there from Burger King, McDonald's, whatever it was. So to me, part of managing property, and I say this because I'm a realtor licensed in New Jersey, is that somebody's not walking the property. They're not walking the third floor to see how the garbage room is. They're not checking the second floor, just as part of their daily routine when they're here. That's all I want to say. And I hope I haven't hurt anybody's feelings the way I said.
Same thing with the glass, broken glass all over the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Those are things that would be seen.
You got something else? Anything
No,
else?
that's it. Thank you so much.
Don't, listen, we're all thick skins, don't worry. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it. If we know about it,
I also don't want.
no promises, no guarantees, but if we know about it, we'll at least make it happen. Anything else? Anybody else got anything? In that case, the chair will entertain a motion to end the public session. And enter executive.
So moved.
Second.
Done. So we ask you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Have a good evening, everybody. You too. See you soon. Love you, Beth. You like my best vegetable?
Yeah, I like it.